Hi friends, today we are going to discuss about the Tech Mahindra DevOps interview questions. So these are the questions expected. One of my students is attended for the DevOps interview. They asked in 4 modules they asked. Okay, they are having multiple modules, they are asked the question. In the technical interview they asked the question, the first question is how to check the running process in the Linux. So you can check the answer in the chat GPT or any Google, that is PS command. How to check the running process in the Linux is the PS command. So what is the difference between top and htop and PS command? How to schedule a cron job for every 5 minutes? What is the difference between top, htop and PS? How to schedule the cron job? Here what is the cron job? To do the automation. So how will you write down the cron job automation? There are 5 fields are there. By using cron job, how you do the automation? What is the difference between hard link and soft link? Another question is the hard link and soft link. You should be able to difference between the hard link and soft link. How to find which process using the high memory? What is the command to use the process using the high memory? And in the second module, we have a Docker and containers. What is difference between the image and a container? What is the image and what is the container? How you create an image from the container? How you create a container from the image? The basically Docker image there, from the image how you container the command. How you create that? What is the difference between image and container? Image is nothing but a libraries and binaries which contains the operating system, all this in image. When you run the image, it will become the container. How to persist data across the container restart? Mean that we need to create a volumes. Okay, we need to create a volumes. What is the use of the Docker Compose? So what is the use of the Docker Compose is I want to create a multiple containers at a time. I want to do the task, multiple tasks I want to do at a run multiple tasks. Then go for the Docker Compose, we'll write down the Docker Compose and we'll add the all multiple tasks. When you run the Docker Compose, it will run the all multiple tasks. How to check the logs of the specific container? What are the command used to check the logs of the specific container? How to export the container to outside world? Nothing but you have a command, expose command. By using expose command, with this port number is exposed to the outside world. What is the difficult? Explain the typical CI/CD pipeline you have worked on. Okay, so you need to explain that how you created a CI/CD pipeline, like different tools like Git, Maven, and Jenkins and SonarQube. You need to explain how you created. What are the steps we had followed? What is the difference between declarative scripted pipeline? So scripted pipeline and declarative pipeline. So scripted pipeline is the old one, declared pipeline is new one. So easily write down the declared pipeline. How to trigger Jenkins when code is pushed to GitHub? How to trigger the Jenkins job when code is to push to GitHub? Either use the periodically, so okay, run periodically, or we can use the one option is there, run periodical option is there, and also poll SCM is there. How to handle the secrets in Jenkins pipelines? Adding the go to the manage and we'll add the security credentials in the Jenkins pipeline. How to pass the parameter? So how to pass the parameter stages? By using the parameterizer pipeline. Parameterized pipeline, by making the parameterized pipeline, we can make the parameter, pass the parameter between the stages. So how to resolve the merge conflict? Okay, when you use the JIT having a, both branches having a two same data, then the merge will be occur. Then how will you conflict this one? What is the difference between JIT pull, JIT fetch and JIT clone? And the next question they asked is use case of the JIT stash. What is mean by JIT stash? So why use JIT ignore file? Okay, why use JIT ignore file? How does it work? What are the difference between JIT rebase and JIT merge? Okay, whereas in Terraform, how does Terraform maintain the state of response? This is the question. And what are the Terraform modules are there? We need to explain the 5 stages of the Terraform. How to manage the sensitive variables in the Terraform by reading the variables in the Terraform. What is the purpose of the Terraform validate and Terraform FMT? So Terraform validates, once you return the code, it will validate the code whether it is valid or not. How to handle provisioning in different environments, dev and stage and production. Whereas in AWS, how to troubleshoot the SSS issues in the EC2 instance. How will you troubleshoot? Generally we have port number 80 is there, where go to the check whether port number 22 is open or not. And so whether the port number 22 is not open, you are not able to connect to the EC2 instance. And what is the difference between EBS, S3 and EFS? Okay. So how does the AMP policy differ from AMP role? What is the difference between AMP policy and AMP role? What is the difference between the security group and ACL? Security group and NACL. Yes, security group is nothing but you can apply for the specific instance, whereas NACL is applied for the network. How to set up the auto scaling for application? We need to explain the application load balancer and network load balancer. Whereas in K8 Kubernetes, what is the deployment and stateful state? We should be in a position, we need to explain the deployment and stateful state. What is the daemon set user for why use daemon set? How does service in the Kubernetes work? What is the difference between config map and secret? What are the times and toleration? How do you leaveness and readiness and probe work? And another question is how to troubleshoot the pod stuck in the crashback loop of. How to troubleshoot when a pod stuck in a crashback loop of. These are the questions are there. Anyhow, I will give these questions in the description. You just go and check the description and you can get the answer from easily from any ChatGPT or Google. Okay, these are the questions are there. You can expect from this DevOps interview question for the Tech Mahindra. These they are attended for around 2 to 5 years experience. I just give these questions in the description.